Okay, good morning. I wanted to go ahead and make the second video about OBS Studio, which is a quick and easy way to present without having to deal with some of the limitations of Teams. So one of my favorite things to do with presentations is make sure that everything looks as clean as possible. So with OBS Studio, you're less limited and you can keep yourself in the video, and you can also do things like hide your background with something better than just a blur. So OBS Studio is free to download. It's very simple to use, and you can do just a tremendous amount of stuff with presets, and you can get into hotkeys and really turn this into a professional looking broadcast. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my screen so that you guys can see what I see. So this here is OBS Studio. It's a little bit much right now because you're seeing the mirrored effect of me with my live view, which is over here, and then my cued view. I can cue a different background. Okay, it's cued, but it is not yet live. So if I hit the transition button now, this screen here is what everybody will see, and you can switch back and forth. This is good if you're going from presenter view to question view. Okay, so we have our scenes down here where we can switch different backgrounds, transition to, for instance, showing you a monitor, my other monitor, or this monitor here. So as you can see, you can do some cool stuff with it. Right now I've got it queued up to show the left monitor. That's where we're going to go ahead and keep our windows. Okay, so I'm going to switch over now, and you'll see that I'm still in the frame, okay? But you no longer see my presenter view. Instead, you see the download page for OBS Studio. It's kind of cool because I can look at my center screen and still see my other monitor. So I will leave a link to OBS Studio in the description so that you can download it. Again, it's free, and it's even free for commercial use, so there's no limitations there. Now, for the people with company-owned computers, check with your IT staff to make sure that you're allowed to download and use third-party software. Provided that you are, go ahead and download it and install it, and then we'll walk through a very quick setup of a webcam. For those of you that want something a little simpler, ChromaCam is free software that doesn't require a green screen. It doesn't require anything. It's a little bit more finicky as far as the resolution goes, and you're not going to be able to get the really sharp outlines that you do with an actual green screen, which you'll see here in a minute is not all that fancy. It's literally a piece of cloth you get at Walmart. We're not looking to make YouTube quality productions. We're just trying to make our presentations look a little cleaner. Okay, another website that I use is FreePic. It's not really free, but the premium version I think is like $10 a month. But it allows you unlimited commercial use of images. So it's like Adobe stock, but you don't have to be a millionaire to use it. It's really nice. You can find a lot of good backgrounds here as well. There is some aviation-related stuff, not a whole lot. But the important thing is that you, by using this license, even if you personally buy it, you're allowed to use it for commercial use. And it does come with a license to do that, so you won't get in trouble. Check your institutional policies to make sure that you're allowed to do stuff like this. That's up to each individual company or institution. So we'll go ahead and go into the setup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove myself from the frame, and we'll transition back to my Chroma Key, my OBS Studio. Alright, so what you're seeing now is my entire screen with the entire screen being shared. Right? What we're going to do now is we're going to set up our own webcam. So I'm going to transfer over. You're not going to see me for a minute. In my view, how to do this. We're going to add a new scene down here, you're going to hit this plus button, and then we'll be able to record everything. We're going to add, I'm going to call this How to Webcam. Right, this is going to allow us to use our webcam as a source. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is we need to add a source. In this case, we're going to add a video capture device, which is our camera. If you have a new, you haven't added it yet, click Create New, give it a name, hit OK, and then you'll be able to add your camera here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Right, we'll add a new device, which I hope won't mess with my old settings. So we'll add the video capture device, and we'll call it Test Cam. Alright, this will show you your actual output from your camera. So as you can see, this is my green screen. This is not by no means professional. It's literally just a piece of cloth that's hanging up. And I'll show you guys how to configure that. You shouldn't have to do anything with the settings. We've got just default stuff right here. We'll click OK, and then now you can see that you have your webcam. Right, this is what it looks like. There's nothing special about it, and you can see there's no effects. So we can add this into another scene, but you're still going to see all this green. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add an image. In my case, what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to find a green background, right, like a lime green. You can find this if you just Google Chroma Key background green, you'll find the green. And you'll see you can no longer see my test camera. Right? The reason for this is that the green screen is in front of my camera. So we move it down. Alright, this is a hierarchy just like anything else. And now we can see that we have the green screen behind us. The reason that we're going to do this is we're going to add the Chroma Key to our webcam. And the Chroma Key is what allows us to get rid of the background. You can see my little guy here. I've frozen because I'm using the source somewhere else. Right? So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to right click on Test Cam, and you're going to click on Filters. Right? This will bring you up to the Filters menu. Here you're going to be able to add effects, and we're going to add 3 effects. The first effect we're going to add is the crop and pad. You can leave it named that, that's fine. Then we're going to add color correction, and we will add the Chroma Key. Alright, Chroma Key is what allows us to make the background. Now you'll see a couple things here. You'll see that in my window here, the green screen is turned to gray. And you'll see that it's turned to green over here. Right, so this is what's going to allow us to configure the best settings for the green. We've got a lot of stuff to play with here. Okay, keep in mind that whatever changes we make here, you're going to see over here in real time. As we make these changes, you're going to see that my camera itself starts looking a little weird and funny. We're going to fix that later. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our green screen is green. You can also get blue and magenta ones. So if that's what you have laying around, that's what you have laying around. The first function we're going to mess with is a similarity. What this is going to do is it's going to try and figure out how close to that green background we need to be. As you slide it up, it's going to recognize more colors until we disappear. Okay, we don't want to disappear. So you're going to slide it until you can kind of see yourself getting fuzzy. Alright, we don't want to get fuzzy. Alright, so we've clicked that there. We can also do smoothness. Right, so the smoother it is, the more it'll accept, and the sharper it is, the more defined the lines will be. And you see some wrinkles here. Again, not a big deal. And you can always kind of straighten out your background, and it'll be better. So if you want to invest some time in that, you can, and it'll work. All right. Now, you're not going to be able to always edit out everything with the green screen. Now, you can do things. You can move your chair, okay, and that'll cover up some of the flaws. The other thing that we're going to do is contrast. So the more contrast you have between your foreground and your background, the better the chroma key effects will work. And you can do the same thing with brightness. You can see we're getting a lot smoother here, but I'm starting to look kind of ridiculous. Once we mess with the camera, okay, so now we have probably a really great green background, but I look pretty ridiculous. Alright, so next we're going to do the color correction, and this will color correct the entire image. We can do the same thing here. Alright, now I've washed out this last section of green. We can do the same thing, we can bump up some contrast. Right, and now you can see that my green matches the regular green. This crease here is actually a crease in my green screen. Well, my sheet. Right. We can change saturation, whatever we need to do to get this background as close to perfect as we can. All right. And then for some things, when you can't crop it out, when you can't edit it out, what you can do is you can crop. So this is going to be left, as in my left, okay, on the screen, not necessarily for me. So we can add any value in here. The greater the value, the more it'll crop out. This is useful. For instance, we can see I've got a big line right here. On the top, I can crop out something like, let's start with 50. All right, so now I fixed a big deal of that. This is really good. You can see I'm still in the frame. And that's what matters. Alright, so we've got that set up, and now we'll go ahead and close it. Okay, now you can see that the image of me is not all that great. Alright, when we remove the test green screen, we now get a black image. This you want to resize as big as you can, because what we're going to do is we're going to use this scene here as our input for our screens. So now you're going to right click on your webcam scene, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to apply a filter. Okay, here the filters that we're going to apply are only color correction. What we're going to do now is we're going to fix ourselves. So this is not going to mess with the background, it's just going to mess with me. Right, so now I'm starting to look, well, I'm pretty fat, more human. And you can kind of really play around with this however you need to. Try to wear clothing that is as far on the other side of the color wheel from green as you can, because otherwise you're going to start getting splotches. I have a blue shirt that makes my stripes, that makes me kind of invisible in the middle, so don't wear that. Alright, so now we're going to close this, and what we have now is this is what our camera is going to look like. You can see that there is still splotchiness sometimes, but it's the best that you can do. I mean, we're not shooting for perfection here. So now that we have a scene, we're going to import that scene into another scene that's going to allow me to share a desktop for a presentation. All right, so we will go ahead and add a new scene, and we will call it How to Presentation. Or hot presentation, either way. Alright, so now that we add a scene, we can see that the webcam disappears again. Alright, what we're going to do under sources, instead of adding a webcam this time, we're going to import a scene. Alright, and we'll go ahead and import the webcam we just created. Alright, so now it looks identical to what we had before, but the big difference is this is just a scene. Like, this whole square here is a scene, whereas this is always going to be big. Here I can move myself and it won't affect the webcam. Okay, this is useful for when you want to, for instance, I'm going to move myself here and make it really small so that I can present. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is, what do I want to present? So I'm going to want to share one of my monitors. So in this case, we're going to do display capture. I already have one, okay, but you can do, here we'll do a test one. We'll add a new monitor, and it will allow you here to pick one of your displays. Alright, so I want to share my left monitor. So back to OBS Studio. Remember, this was from the beginning, so we'll hit OK. So now I'm sharing my left monitor, and I've disappeared again. So we want to make sure that I am on top. So we'll move me up, and there I am. So now we can move this. So for instance, let's say if I want to do the floating head thing, we can move it like this. All right, so now I can present however I want. All right. What I personally like to do is fill up the whole screen. Okay, so now if we want to display a PowerPoint, we'll just open PowerPoint. We will start the presentation. All right, and now you can see that the presentation is over here. I can view my presenter's notes on a different monitor. Here, we'll move it over here. So we can have our presenter notes available to us, right? But we're going to view them on a different monitor so that even when I use my laser pointer, right, you can still see that. So the cool thing is now I'm actually in the presentation. And depending on your presentation, you might decide that for this particular presentation you want to be on top. Okay, because this gives the viewer the best source. So we'll hit the transition button, and now we can see that these have switched. So now the program, here I am. Okay, we can switch again, and then it switches back over to the broadcast, the preview mode, and we can move ourselves again. All right, and if I want to be really huge in the presentation, I can be downright tiny. We can go really small. Okay, and none of this affects our main webcam anymore. So now that we've created a scene, you can also reuse this as many times as you'd like. So we can create another one with an image. So let's go with So this is what I recommend, that you have a standard background image. So we're going to go ahead and add a new scene. This new scene is going to be just a standard image. All right. And we're going to pick one of our pictures. In this case, I'll just use a testing background. Well, yeah. Okay, so now we have this background image. We hit OK, and we can see it's really huge. You'll just have to switch that to where it is back to normal size. Just keep resizing it, okay? So now we have it resized. Okay, and then remember, we're going to go ahead and add ourselves back in with scene. We're going to hit the webcam that we just made. Okay, and there we are. So now I have a background that's more professional for when I'm speaking. You don't see the back of my house. You don't see wherever. So that's the basics for OBS Studio. I hope that you guys have learned something. Oh, so actually, before we end, how do we get this into Teams, right? That's a big one. There is something called Virtual Cam. Virtual Cam is where you click, and you will actually output this to a virtual camera. So it's automatically started. We can set buffering here. And when we're in Teams, I'll start a meeting. So, okay, let me switch back to my normal presenter view here. Oh Lord. Okay. So, okay, here we go. Now we've got our regular deal. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the additional icons, show device settings, and you're going to change your camera. See, if I use my live cam, it'll show, obviously it's not working because I'm using it in another source, but you're just going to hit OBS camera, and it will then show you the proper camera in here. I'll polish this up a little bit. It's a little confusing with the two webcams, but this is definitely something that can enhance your presentations, and it can enhance. Let me delete this guy. It can enhance pretty much everything about your screen sharing experience, and you don't really have to mess with Teams, because you're doing everything in OBS. Your Teams will be unaffected, and you don't have to worry about sharing audio and all that good stuff. So if you've got any questions, let me know.